Hey, welcome to my channel. I am Tammy and I do math for coffee. Today we are going to go over how to do something called completing the square, but with an expression, not an equation. First off, let's look at what you get when you multiply x plus 6 squared out. And so we end up with x squared plus 12x plus 36, which is called a perfect square trinomial because of how it started. If you were to factor this, you'd be back to x plus 6 times x plus 6, perfect square trinomial. In order to be able to do this completing the square thing, we're going to have to be able to think a little backwards, and I want you to look at a couple things here. Notice that the 12 is actually 2 times the positive 6, the plus 6 from the problem where we squared it, right here. And 36 is that 6 squared. Let's look at this again, this time with a negative number, and see how it works. We have x minus 5 squared, x minus 5 times x minus 5. And here we have another perfect square trinomial. After a while, you learn to recognize these, but in order to tell if something's a perfect square trinomial, it's if the middle term is 2 times a number and the last constant term is that same number squared. All right, so now let's do this. It's called completing the square. Now I have made a video about doing this with an equation, which I think is a little easier. If you want to watch that, go ahead. I'll put a link up here. But with this one, we're going to do it with just an expression. Notice there is no equal sign. So the first thing you do is rewrite the problem, but you need to make some room. You take those first two terms, the x squared term and the 12x term, and you put them in parentheses with a little space in the third spot. The plus 32 is on the outside. We are going to add something and subtract the exact same number on the outside. If we do that, adding and subtracting, we are not changing the value at all. The trick is coming up with what is the something. Using that pattern we just saw, we know that the middle term is 2 times that number, and the third term inside the parentheses is going to be that number squared. That number, in order for it to be 12, some number times 2 equals 12, well, that's 6. So let's square the 6, and we will put a 36 on the inside there, and that makes a perfect square trinomial on the inside of the parentheses. But we have a little problem. We can't change the entire value that we started with. So if we add 36, we also need to subtract it. Now, rewriting that first trinomial as a perfect square, it's x plus 6 squared, and positive 32 with a negative 36 is a negative 4. Let's do it again. Start by making some room. We're going to add and subtract the exact same number. We need to figure out what that number is going to be by taking the middle term, the 4, and think, what do I multiply times 2 to get the 4, which is a 2, and we are going to square that 2. So we get a 4 again. But if we add the 4 on the inside, we need to subtract the 4 on the outside. Rewriting all of this, we now have n plus 2 squared minus 9. Now let's take a look at a problem like this one where there is a coefficient in front of the n squared. You really can't do completing the square unless the first squared term doesn't have a number in front of it other than 1. So I'm going to start by factoring out the 2 from those first two terms. So I have 2 times n squared minus 8n minus 18. I didn't take the 2 out of the negative 18, and that's going to be something right here where you want to be careful, and this could be a possible mistake when you're doing your homework questions or a quiz or a test. You leave that constant alone. Now we're going to make some room. We're going to make that perfect square trinomial inside the parentheses. You see the 2 is still on the outside, that's okay. But right now, inside the parentheses, focus on that. The number that we want to use would be something that you would multiply times 2 to get the negative 8, which would be negative 4. Then we're going to square the negative 4, and we get a positive 16. Most people are going to put a 16 on the outside then and subtract it, but this is a big mistake. This is a common mistake. You got to think about, what did you really add? When I put a 16 inside the parentheses, you got to remember that you were multiplying this whole thing by 2 because we factored that 2 out when we started. So we really didn't add 16. We really added 16 times 2, so we have to subtract 32. Now rewriting, we have 2 on the outside, n minus 4 squared, and then negative 18 and negative 32 put together are negative 50. This is very tricky, so watch for this one. Watch for a mistake that you would make when you have to do something like this. Hey, if this is useful information, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. To watch that video about completing the square with equations, click into this one. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.